Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're doing JMA Friday today. We're going to have a look at the weather for the coming month with the Japanese and CFS V2 models. I'm running a bit late with today's video, so I'll try and rattle through as quickly as I can. It's going to take us up into the middle part of May. Can you believe? So we're going into the final month of spring 2016 with this update. Later on, we'll have Terry's month-ahead forecast. It'll go from the middle of April through to the middle of May as well. That'll be around the website on his page sometime around 5, 6 o'clock this evening. Not sure quite when I'm going to do it, but just keep checking back to the website to see when his month-ahead forecast is posted. Before I get on with JMA Friday, but just to say about the ads that Gazzo thinks, there's links to articles on all the pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks very much for doing that. There's video ads on most of the pages which open up the content when you've watched them. They will close back up again. It does help to pay for the website. That allows us to take completely free of charge, so we don't have to worry about subscription or pay-per-view, anything like that. We can bring the updates to you as you need and want them. Thanks very much for doing that. Right, we'll start off with the JMA and then I'll have a look at CFS V2. So we're going to start off with the 500 millibar heights, looking down from the top of the pole into mid-latitudes. I'll just show you where British Isles is, because it's not always that easy to make us out. There we are, just there. On these charts, blue extrapolates to low pressure, and yellow, orange, red, the brighter colours, extrapolates to high pressure. As I say, these are 500 millibar heights, broken down to week periods. The first week period will take us from the 15th through to the 22nd of April, so the week that we are currently just starting. It's rather a messy picture for this first week. We've got a trough of low pressure over Scandinavia, a ridge is out to the northwest, and then low pressure is running underneath it. It's all rather a mixed bag, but I think overall the jet stream is generally a little bit to the south of the country, and it's not desperately wet, this, but it is a little bit on the cool side, because with the jet stream generally a bit to the south, it means that the air more or less is coming down from the north or the northwest, so you expect quite a cool period coming up for this week. The week 2 chart looks like this, going from the 22nd to 29th of April. This one places a trough again to the east of us, quite a deep trough over Scandinavia. A ridge is out to the west, so again the jet stream doing something like that. We're on the cool side of the jet, and once more I think we are opening the door to northerly, northwesterly influences. So although not a wet week coming up again for week 2, you'd expect it to be probably rather on the cool side. If we have a look at week 3 and week 4 then, this is the period taking us from the 29th of April through to the 13th of May. What we see for this one is that it all starts with more back towards the west. So we find this ridge down to the southwest of us, the trough of low pressure centred around Greenland, and the jet stream's coming more or less through the country, a bit like that. So whilst you would probably think this is a milder period, we should see the temperatures lifting up as the flow reverts back into Atlantic-based air. It could turn wetter actually through this period, with bands of rain starting to come back in off the Atlantic, whereas in weeks 1 and weeks 2 we probably block off the Atlantic a little bit, so whilst it's cool, it's probably not all that wet. Let's have a look at the we're going to have a look at the mid-latitude view then. So this is the 500 millibar height, and I'm looking at the mid-latitude from the JMA model, and the tropics of British Isles on this chart is just here in the far top right hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it. So this is the northern hemisphere just here, this is the tropics just here, this is the southern hemisphere just here. The North Pole is off the chart, as is the South Pole down here. Right, this is how the 500 millibar heights are looking for week 1. Then we've got the trough underneath the ridge, so low pressure is here, high pressure is up here. You'd expect this to be quite a cool period, and indeed that's what the model is predicting, a cooler than average week coming up from the 15th to 22nd of April. Rainfall through this week is coming out generally closer, maybe a little bit below average. It's wettest in the south, but generally overall not too bad with the rainfall. We do see a slightly drier signal there. So let's go through to week 2 and see how that one is looking. Remember, for week 2 we are placing the trough to the east of us and the northeast of us over here, with the ridge out to the west. So again, we're more or less blocking off the Atlantic, albeit we're bringing the air down from north or northwesterly direction with a bit of a southerly tracking jet stream. So again, you can expect cooler than average temperatures. That's what the model is seeing for week 2, going from 22nd to 29th. Generally, temperatures coming out below average. And in terms of precipitation, again, it's not a wet period. We do see precipitation close to average there through week 2. And then week 3 and week 4, it all starts to revert more westerly. So we've got the ridge down to the south, much more typical pattern. Got the ridge down to the south, low pressure up to the north and northwest, and the jet stream's probably running straight through the country, a bit like that. You'd expect this to be milder because the air's driving in off the Atlantic rather than being polar maritime. So the temperatures do lift up actually through week 3 and week 4, going into the start of May. We find the temperatures beginning to recover, but the downside is that with the jet stream coming back with these westerly winds, we bring in more bands of rain, so precipitation going above average through into the start of May. So it's either cool and dry through second half of April, or the first half of May looks a bit warmer, but also wetter. And overall, a pretty mixed period coming up one way or another. That's the JMA. Let's have a look at the CFS V2. Again, 500 millibar heights, broken down into weekly periods, looking at the UK from the pole down. So very similar this is from the 15th through to 21st, very similar from CFS V2 compared to the JMA. Got the trough of low pressure over Scandinavia through the coming week, got the ridge out to the northwest and the trough underneath it. Again, it's a very complicated pattern, but the overall idea is that the air is coming down from the north and the northwest. You'd expect a fairly cool but not a wet week coming up. Week 2 from the 22nd to 28th of April looking like this. Again, the ridge is out to the north and west. The trough is centred over Scandinavia. So again, we're opening the door here to northerly influences. You'd expect quite a cool period coming up. Again, it isn't wet because this ridge out to the west of us is blocking off the Atlantic, so we're not bringing in the rain bearing where the systems are going down to the south of the UK. Have a look at week 3, this from the 29th of April through to the 5th of May, and it's all very similar. So it's quite a locked-in pattern, this. Trough of low pressure over Scandinavia, ridge out to the west of the country, and it means, again, we're bringing the wind down from the north. If this was a winter month, this would be an extended spell of really quite cold weather, I think, coming up. Because we're into late spring, it's not going to be all that cold, although it probably will be cold enough for night frost, and you wouldn't rule out risk of wintry showers in the north and the east either. Again, it's not desperately wet because this ridge does block off the Atlantic and stops those rain-bearing westerlies getting through to us. And then week 4, this going from the 6th through to the 12th of May, this one a little bit different, still got blocking out to the north and west, but it's going further to the north and west, which sort of places or allows a trough to be placed over the top of the country. So it's still fairly cool, I think, this. The flow probably coming more from an easterly direction, but it is more unsettled as well, so we find rainfall increasing probably as we go through into this final week, this week 4, the 6th through to 12th of May. Probably turns wetter, and probably not as cool, but still temperatures nothing to get excited about. Have a look at the temperature anomalies for the coming month. So this is from 15th through to 21st of April, the coming week, coming out cooler than average, in agreement with the JMA. Week 2, which is the 22nd to the 28th of April, that comes out significantly cooler than average. Look at that. That looks like quite a cool week for the final week of April. Week 3, the 29th of April through to the 5th of May. That one also looking cooler than average. And then week 4, the 6th through to the 12th. Remember, this is when it turns more unsettled probably. So for this one, the temperature anomaly is still a bit cooler than average even then, but not as cool as the earlier weekly period. So the temperatures do lift up a little bit there as it turns more unsettled into the middle part of May. Precipitation, finally, and the coming week generally looks average to a little bit drier than average. Wetter conditions are being pushed down to the south of the country. Week 2 also looking drier than average, so it's not a wet period coming up this, albeit the temperatures are nothing to get excited about. Then week 3 looks rather odd, but overall it's average precipitation there, and then week 4 also comes out with average precipitation. I have a suspicion what happens on these charts is that as you get through to week 3 and week 4, it kind of loses the signal really, so it reverts back to average. But I would suspect what happens here is that week 3 is still probably driving average. Week 4 maybe goes a bit wetter than average. So it looks like a pretty cool period coming up. It looks like you're going to have a lot of northerly influences through the course of the coming month. So temperature is really quite disappointing. The only good side about that is that it isn't all that wet, because with high pressures to the northwest of the country, it kind of blocks off the Atlantic westerlies, and we shouldn't get those rain-bearing systems coming through all that often. But overall, pretty mixed, pretty cool. That's the outlook from JMA Friday for the coming month. We'll see what Terry Scoley's month-ahead forecast has to say later on, whether it's in agreement with this or not. Tomorrow we will be doing weekend forecast. We'll also have the CFS 6 months look ahead tomorrow, so come back for that. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching.